Hello and welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and this podcast is being recorded on the land of the Anishinaabe, Odawa, and Mississauga people. It's really important for me to continue to learn about the land that I live on, the First Nations people who have cared for it for so long, and the history and culture of my settler and immigrant ancestors that came here to Turtle Island. If you're new here and wondering who I am, I'm a Canadian yoga teacher, mom, entrepreneur, and a forever student who loves to ask questions. And that's why I think that podcasting feels like a really good fit for me and a really amazing way to connect to information and to other people who get really excited about yoga and business topics. So I'm really, really glad that you're here today, especially if you're new here and you're like, well, I'm going to listen to this personal and business update from Shannon. If you're new here, you might want to jump back to an episode that has more of a topic like, I don't know, about business or learning something about teaching yoga. Today, I just really wanted to check in. And then it's been a while since I've shared some big personal and business updates that are going on. So it's a little behind the scenes as well. For those of you who don't know, I also work as the founder of Pelvic Health Professionals, a place where movement educators and healthcare professionals collaborate and learn the most up-to-date information regarding pelvic health. If you would like to join us, we have a great community over there. Visit pelvichealthprofessionals.com. And because I love to talk about yoga and because I'm a yoga teacher, that's a huge focus for us in there. And I'll be telling you later today about a yoga series that's coming up. It's starting in September, and there's actually an early bird price for that series that ends at the end of August. So if you're listening in real time and it's not the end of August 2023, make sure to listen for the information on this series and then also jump in there and join if you're thinking about signing up. I'd say do it before the end of August. So all of that can be found over at pelvichealthprofessionals.com. If you're looking for the yoga series that we're doing with Sarah Garden, you'll click on yoga. And then at the very top of that, it's yoga and endo. And Sarah Garden is going to be leading that. It's for anyone who's dealing with pelvic pain or endometriosis. So this podcast is really made for you, the yoga teacher, because I get how it feels to be out in the real world as a yoga teacher. And I also get what it can feel like to run a business. I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. And sometimes there are just huge struggles when you're running a small business. So this podcast was created for you so that you have a place to connect to other yoga teachers, ideas, and information. And also, I wanted to share behind the scenes, and that's really what today's episode is all about, is kind of what's going on behind the scenes for my own personal life, but also some business updates. Now, before we get right into this, I wanted to say a huge thank you to our sponsor for today's episode, OfferingTree. I use and love this software in my own business because it automates so much. I know that OfferingTree is going to take care of all of my bookings, payments, Zoom links, reminders that go out to people, waivers, and so much more. If you are looking for something that is going to simplify your life as a yoga teacher and an entrepreneur, we also have a special discount code for you. That's over at offeringtree.com/Shannon. So, dear listener, I first want to start by asking, how are you doing? And I realize that as much as you are listening and it feels like we're kind of in conversation, I can't really hear your answer, but feel free to reach out to me and let me know how you're really doing. Probably the easiest way to do that is on Instagram in a private message. So I'm at the Connected Yoga Teacher. I would love to hear how you're doing. And as I'm sharing today, there might be some part of what I've been living in or dealing with or celebrating that you feel like, oh yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'd love to hear if you have something similar or completely opposite to what I have going on. So let's start off on the personal side of things. So I really have been sitting in some pretty deep grief, especially in the past month. And it's something that, I'm not sharing on the podcast, like this grief that's going on, because there's other people connected to this who are in my family. And it's not something that is just for me to share. It's not my story alone. But for anyone who is dealing with like just sadness or grief, I want you to know that you're not alone in this. And as much as it can look like, because I tend to post photos of me gardening or me hiking or hanging out with friends or doing fun things, and I really, share a lot of that on the podcast, there are times where I'm obviously not showing all that's going on. So if you are dealing with something that's heavy, my heart goes out to you and you are not alone. And we also have some really great podcast episodes talking about grief. And so maybe we can link to those in the show notes for you. Another update for me is that I'm continuing to go to therapy, and this has been so helpful. I have my regular appointment booked. Shout out to Diane and the amazing work that she does. I really believe if you can afford to go to therapy, it can really help you when times get heavy. And I realized that I need to have it booked in like a regular appointment. I've also been spending a lot of time in my garden where I grow vegetables, I grow herbs. I love to grow things that we can eat. And I also am getting really excited about native plants for the pollinators and for the critters that live around us. Another personal update is that this is the first year, and I think 20 years, where I'm not doing any back to school shopping, which seems strange. But oh my goodness, I am loving this phase of parenting, which is a lot of letting go. And I'm so, so proud of my kids. They all seem to really know how to follow their interests and their curiosities in life. So my oldest, Wyatt, he's really great at fixing things. He's a millwright mechanic. And him and his girlfriend just fixed up an old house, really on a shoestring budget and a lot of elbow grease. And I cannot believe what they've done with it. And it's so good to see them put their energy into something where, they're doing something for themselves and they're learning a lot along the way. Colton, my other son, is working with 2 horses, Rosie and Wilson, and he's learning leather work in his spare time as well. He's been making some amazing things. He's very artistic, and he's really been doing that in his spare time between being a farmer and working with the horses, and he's also got a baby calf that he's feeding. He's doing a lot of things on the farm. And then Sage, the youngest, is doing a carpentry apprenticeship. And I love it when she tells me with excitement about the houses they're building or the renovations that they're doing and the things that she's learning. Not that it doesn't have days where it's just a ton of work for her, but I also see the excitement that she has in really doing something. Like she was learning how to do framing. It's also something that I don't know anything about. So when she tells me, I try to really learn as she's telling me, but also I just like to witness her excitement about it. Now, on the work side of things, one really exciting thing is I feel like I've sort of unlocked this missing puzzle piece inside of our Pelvic Health Professionals membership this past year. And it's been really exciting to kind of find the missing piece. And I'll share a bit here, and then I'll tell you about an upcoming event that's really connected to this that we're doing with Sarah Garden. And the best thing is, if you're listening before the end of August, you can save $50 on this 7-week yoga series that Sarah's doing. Like I said, there's an early bird. So with this missing puzzle piece, Pelvic Health Professionals has always been about how can we connect pelvic health experts and healthcare professionals and movement experts with the newest information there is about pelvic health. And then how can we really also talk to, everyone from yoga teachers to movement professionals and the healthcare workers, and how can we get this information out to everyone across the board to really help people who are dealing with pelvic health issues. And so originally, back in the day, some of you might not know this, it was only me sitting on Zoom, and that was before we were even really comfortable with Zoom like we are now. And I would hire pelvic health experts just to talk with me one-on-one and to answer my questions that I had that would come up either through the work that I did or through trainings I was leading. And I would learn that way. And then I would take that information, integrate it into my own yoga practice, and then eventually share parts of this in workshops, trainings, and things like that with yoga teachers, but also with people who were interested in learning more about their own pelvic health. So along the way, this is where Pelvic Health Professionals was born. I kind of had this idea, like, what if others joined me? And it was more about learning together as a community. And that part is still going on because that really is a huge component of Pelvic Health Professionals. And it has been since we began like over 3 years ago. But the missing piece, in my opinion, and really in the opinion of our members, was the yoga part. And maybe I held off on doing this for a while because I wanted it, not just to be all about like pelvic health and yoga. But we've had some guest experts in and over again, even if they're not from the yoga world, they're talking about the benefits of yoga for pelvic health issues. And that's why, I really get excited about combining these two things. And in there, inside of Pelvic Health Professionals, we just learn a lot of theory. We learn about a lot of research in the pelvic health world. And now we also get to do a real focused yoga series as part of that. So we've done 2 of them so far, and all of our members have been loving this. And then also the people have signed up for this offering who aren't in our membership have also loved it. So we kind of have 2 options. And we do these yoga series live and online. And then there's a replay if you can't attend live or if you want to repeat the same classes. So the first series that we did was I taught a 6-week Yoga for Pelvic Health series. And then following that, Shelley Prosco did a 7-week Balance Flow yoga series. And then, as I said, the next one coming up is with Sarah Garden, who's a yoga therapist. She specializes in pelvic pain and endometriosis. And we recently did a podcast episode with her. Someone just told me this week that they listened to it 2 times. It was a physiotherapist, and they said, I listened to it 2 times. I loved it so much, and now I want to sign up for this yoga series specifically to help their PT clients. So that's really exciting. If you feel like you want to join, it would be amazing to see you there because this is a series that you can do for yourself or for your teaching if you want to share this with your yoga students. So a lot of our students are dealing with pelvic pain and endometriosis. Lots of them are not telling us as yoga teachers, and we know that yoga may really help them. So if you want to check out the information on this session or register for it, head on over to pelvichealthprofessionals.com and click on yoga. Then there's a drop-down menu and look for Yoga for Endo. And I'll also link to that in our show notes. So if you're wondering when is this, I'll also tell you now here so you don't have to go over to the website because maybe you want to check your calendar. So it's Thursdays beginning September 21st and running until November the 2nd. And it's happening if you want to attend live, but again, there's a replay. If you want to attend live, it's 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Central, or 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And don't worry, when you go to check it out, it will show up in your time zone. Now, I know that some of you, this time is like, oh my gosh, I'm around the world and this time won't work. Don't worry. There's a replay. Some people choose to do the replay in that exact week when we're doing it so they can kind of feel like, okay, we're all doing this at the same time. And that way you can also send in questions for the next class if you have questions for Sarah. I'm really excited about this. I'll be there live. I'll either be practicing along with you, learning from Sarah, or I'll be working as tech support. It depends on our schedule here with Sinead and myself, what we're doing for those live classes. Another business update over here is that I've been looking at what I'm spending on software and websites. And some of these prices for the whole year are shocking to me. Not all of the software is shocking. Some of them I'm like, oh, that's really reasonable, especially compared to like these things that feel overpriced. And it's made me kind of look at like, hey, when did things climb like this? I was looking at it and thinking, wow, some of these really jumped after 2020. And I think some companies, not all of them, took advantage of this boom in online business. And now we as entrepreneurs, small business owners, are paying for that. So that's not really feeling great. I am seriously thinking about doing a more expanded podcast episode on this, but it's something that I'm digging into. I'm digging into the numbers. I was talking with my accountant. Shout out to Kelly for that great conversation of like, what are some of the software and website expenses that we could look at consolidating? I was also talking to the team over at OfferingTree about this as well. So many of you know that I use OfferingTree for my bookings and payments, but they also do email support or they have an email portion to their software. They do websites and they are working on doing memberships. You can upload videos and have memberships on there now. I have some extra bells and whistles on my membership platform that I'm using, but that price is unbelievable. What I'm paying for, it feels like it's too much. It's too much at this point. It's really gone up. And so if you are in the same boat, if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm running a small business and I've just looked at what software is costing me. And yeah, I agree. It feels way overpriced. Reach out to me. Let me know. Let's chat about this a little bit further. If you're interested in hearing more about this and kind of as I work through it and the solutions I come up with, I'd be happy to do a whole podcast episode on this of what I learn, what I decide to do. I don't have that ready yet because I'm in the thick of it, but it's something I've been looking at. So I'd be happy to share when I feel like I've got some answers if you're interested. Maybe it's boring to hear about how Shannon's cutting her software expenses. Maybe that's not exciting. Let me know for sure. You can definitely send me a private message, like I said earlier, on Instagram, or you can email me, shannon@theconnectedyogateacher.com. I realize that I've got a lot of updates to share, and I may even do another episode on this next week because I'm like, gosh, I want to tell you all about some other things. So stay tuned. I think that's what we're going to be doing next week is some more personal and business updates. I hope it's helpful in some way, but I want to share with you my last very exciting business update. I got to meet Crunch, who's been working on our team for 5 years. I got to meet Crunch for the first time in real life. She's in the photo for today's episode. So if you want to see that photo, head on over to theconnectedyogateacher.com/339. This was taken while we were hanging out at the beach. And while we were hanging out in real time in person, I realized that Crunch is even cooler in person. And that's saying a lot because I've known she's a really cool person. And I also got feeling like, oh my gosh, I want to have more of this with our team and possibly just in general in life. I want to have some more in-person time. So I've got some ideas bubbling. I'll definitely keep you posted about that. But I just wanted to say it was such a highlight to meet Crunch in real time. And I want to figure out how we can have the whole team get together in person more often, if that's possible. Now, before I close out today's update episode and go help my daughter with a project that she's working on, that's my next job here today. Before I do that, I want to tell you that one software company that has really been supporting me and saying what other features do you need, Shannon? And that is very reasonably priced is OfferingTree. And that's why they're a sponsor for our podcast, because I can't believe the value that they provide in their software for the amount that they are charging yoga teachers and studios. It's really quite amazing. They have website templates. They've just updated them. So if you looked at OfferingTree before and you're like, wow, everyone's website kind of looks the same when they make one on OfferingTree, not anymore. They had a designer come in. They have some really amazing templates and you can customize it more and more. And I just heard that there's a big update coming with regards to automations and signups. And so I'm really excited to see that come through. You're going to hear more about that in September because we're actually going to do a live with Eddie, who's one of the co-founders of OfferingTree, and we're going to ask him all the questions and tell him, share the update with us as soon as possible here. So if you want to work with a software company that cares about you as a small business owner, that gets it, and that's listening to the updates that you want, head on over to OfferingTree.com and use our special website where there's a discount code. So that's OfferingTree.com/Shannon. And that will save you some money if and when you decide to sign up with them. There's also a free 14-day trial, so you can check it out without even signing up. But if you do sign up, use the discount code OfferingTree.com/Shannon. All of the links for anything I talked about are over in our show notes for today's episode. That's over at theconnectedyogateacher.com/339. You can also see where you can sign up for that yoga series with Sarah Garden. That's on our show notes page as well. And I'll be here again next week sharing some other updates. So it's going to be a quicker episode maybe than today's episode, although I might have some more updates for you. But there were some other things that I just thought I want to share with you because I've been learning along the way. And I feel like sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts and people share like what they're learning along the way, especially as entrepreneurs, that's really been helpful for me. So I hope it's helpful for you as well. Thank you so much to our amazing team over here, Suzanne Crunch and Sinead, for all the work that you put into this world and also into this podcast. Thank you, dear listener, for being here and for making this podcast possible. As usual, I want to leave you with a question. What will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?